me put my microphone on. Thank you for being here this evening. We'll go ahead and start this study session, and I think, Mac, are you presenting? All right, Mac.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have enough time to go through this presentation, so as you have questions or comments, please feel free to interject as we go through. The purpose of this presentation today is kind of to go over our right-of-way management and kind of how we treat the right-of-way as an asset for the city. The purpose of this meeting, or this presentation, will be to go over proposed right-of-way ordinance that the Public Works Department has been working on. It will explain some of the reasons for updating and pursuing that path of an ordinance. It will also outline benefits to the city and to other key stakeholders within the right-of-way. And we'll also discuss changes to our engineering design standards that reflect those goals. And so one of the reasons that we would want to update this is to increase protection of the city's infrastructure in the public right-of-way, also to provide clear enforceable rules for all right-of-way users, and then to ensure fair cost recovery for entities impacting the city. So I kind of wanted to talk about this as kind of a scale, right? We think about this as an asset, very similar to our house, right? On our house, we might do improvements. We might allow a cable company to come in and drill a hole to install cable for our TV. And so this is kind of a similar situation that we have to look at the right-of-way. What are the benefits that we get for allowing utility companies to come into the right-of-way? We get safe, clean water. I think everybody wants that, needs that. We get wastewater removal and treatment, high-speed internet, gas for homes, flood control measures as they install storm sewer and other infrastructure. And then also, obviously, as those things develop, that encourages new homes and businesses to also build out, right? And so those are some of the benefits that the city and the residents that live here get when we have utility companies using the right-of-way. The other side of that and the scale is weighing what are the city's financial responsibilities to its residents and to itself. And so right-of-way maintenance is a big financial responsibility, and that includes all those assets. So we may think of the right-of-way as just the road, but there's a lot of things that encompass the right-of-way. We have landscaping, we have that storm sewer infrastructure, things like sidewalk. Anything that's in the right-of-way is really an asset that the city has to maintain. The other thing that the city has a responsibility to provide is emergency response, right? And so as roads are worked on and things are done in the roadway, the city's obligation to provide those services is impacted. Another responsibility that the city has is providing safe and efficient transit corridors, right? And so we want to develop a transportation system that allows and encourages future growth and attracts the kinds of businesses and the things that benefit the residents of the city. And so this presentation is kind of a presentation of what we think some key decisions need to be made to ensure that scale is balanced for the community and the residents. So we're going to go over the current right-of-way management process, maybe some of the common issues that we face today, and then talk about some of the collaboration that we've had so far with engineers, utilities, and contractors in order to develop a plan on how we're going to better manage this moving forward. So I kind of want to just go over the process as it happens today. And so what happens is a new utility improvement is planned by either a utility company just to increase their service, or maybe by a developer who's putting in new homes or a business. And then those improvements are submitted to the city for review. The city then takes that permit application and reviews it and may provide specific conditions for how long it's able to be opened, what time frames, maybe the types of work methodologies that are used to install in the right-of-way. And that's kind of represented in that second circle there. That's all done at kind of a planning or a pre-construction level. And then right in between those two circles is where it transitions from a planning to what's actually happening in the field, right? And so that's when the contractor performs the work. During that time, the city's kind of overseeing that work, ensuring that it's going according to schedule, things like that. And then the city performs a final inspection of the work to ensure that right-of-way has been now left or returned to the city in an acceptable state. Then a year after, we have a practice to go and revisit that site, make sure that all those restorations that were done are still holding up. And then at that time, that permit is administratively closed. And so I kind of wanted to go over how other cities manage their right-of-way and how they do that process, right? It's a similar process no matter where you go, but different cities do it a little bit differently. So right now, we handle most of that process in our public works staff. We don't necessarily have a formal right-of-way team, but we just handle it through our engineering staff, and also some of the permitting intake is handled through our development center to process those permits and kind of collect that information up front. You can see here, I'm not going to go over each one, but different cities kind of do it differently. A lot of them have a dedicated right-of-way staff or right-of-way team within their engineering departments, and that's a typical practice for most of the cities in the area. Oh, the other thing that we would like to recommend is that currently the city management office is doing an operational assessment. I think it would be a good opportunity to maybe look at how our current staff is operating today and see if there's any ways we can make some improvements and efficiencies to help both the permit applicants and the city move forward. So let's talk about some of the increasing issues that we're having in the right-of-way. We are set to probably do the most amount of right-of-way permits that we've done in at least the last 10 years that I gather data this year. And so we're seeing more and more right-of-way use. And so as that increases, we're seeing just more frequencies of the problems, right? We have a certain number of problems, and as you use the right-of-way more, those problems grow. So we're noticing, these are just some examples, not necessarily specifics, but things like trench plates being able to be installed correctly, right? You can see in this picture that's a pretty hazardous scenario, and so we want to try to avoid things like that by standardizing and requiring certain aspects of work. Another thing that we're finding is that work is being performed, and we're not getting the restoration that's supposed to occur. So you can see in this picture in the middle there, we know that work was performed. There's a couple contractors, you can even see their marks, where we definitely know that somebody was in there working, but there's so much work occurring and it happened and there was no city oversight, that we don't know who's responsible to fix that, and it becomes a debate between all the different utility users on who's truly responsible, right? So at the end of the day, the city just has to come and fix it. We can't just leave a pit opening. And that's time and money and city resources that really shouldn't need to be spent. Another thing that we're seeing kind of often is construction work occurring in the public right-of-way without that permit process occurring. The challenge and the worry there is that as that work's performed, if we're not aware of it and we're not catching that, if something is performed not up to standard, we have to come back and fix it, and there's no record on how to get that cost recompense to the city, right? And so again, the city's eating costs that really they shouldn't have to because of the work that they're not performing. So we kind of said, okay, let's take a look at this. Let's take a step back, figure out how to better process this going forward. And we decided to work with a firm that we work with often for our cost estimation for our CIP projects, which is Ryder Levitt Bucknell. And they also worked with Nino and Moore, who's a well-known geotechnical firm here based out of Tucson. And then we also wanted to seek out some comments from various professionals and utility companies. And so we worked with Arizona Water to send them our drafts, and Southwest Gas, as well as Ellison Mills, people that use the right-of-way a lot and might have some good constructive comments for us to use. And so the ordinance that we're looking at drafting is going to include some proposed key provisions. So the permit requirements, what we're looking to change is that a right-of-way occupancy permit will be required for all work within the right-of-way. So this may require a city code amendment, as today there's not anything that says that somebody working the right-of-way inherently needs a permit. We'll also establish an open occupancy permit for franchise utility companies. So a lot of our franchise utility companies, their utility or their franchise agreement states that they have the ability to pull a kind of a citywide blanket permit to perform maintenance activities and such. And so we would create probably a new permit to address just those specific cases. It would also revise and instill new potential permits for small temporary uses, things like news racks, sales. As we kind of expand the downtown area, those permits for people that are going to use the right-of-way to provide tables or things like that for customers. Those would be as a separate right-of-way use permit rather than what we would have today, which is just work in the right-of-way permits, and it's not very applicable. It would also establish a permit for special event and block parties, things of that nature to allow that to be planned and coordinate with all the other right-of-way users accordingly. It also incorporates a holiday blackout schedule, which targets specific holidays, essentially long holiday weekends, making sure that those roadways are open and free as possible the days before and the days after those holiday weekends. It would change some of our application processes as well. It would require traffic control plans for any of the devices that are installed in public right-of-way. It would also establish a standardized notification process for city departments, impacted businesses, and residences. We kind of don't have a very standardized process across the board on how that works today, and we'd like to address that with this ordinance on who needs to be notified, when, and how. It also would determine what events need to be submitted on a closure event map, what things need to be included, and if we need to potentially upload those closures to the Arizona 511 system, the city has the ability to participate in that. And the beauty there is we would be able to essentially communicate with Google and Waze and those kind of things, so that if you put in something in your Google Maps and it takes you there, it already knows that there's an event closed there, so it might direct you and better use that system. It would also establish some restoration and securities and enforcement standards. So it would place restrictions on cutting into new paved roadways. We'll discuss that a little bit later on why that's problematic. It will require bonding or other securities to work on the right-of-way, and so the goal here is that as contractors are going in and performing work, if something happens where they've damaged, let's just say landscaping, and the city has to come back and replace it, there's a cost mitigation effort that can occur to where they're giving back the cost to the city for those type of things. It also would kind of more clearly define adherence to those restoration standards, and it would establish penalties for noncompliance. So if somebody continually uses the right-of-way without pulling those permits that they're supposed to, there would be a system in place on steps on how to correct that. It would also be a little bit more clear on the revocation of those permits, cease and desist orders, and an appeals process if they feel like something is not being done fairly. So this section's kind of going to talk about those pavement cuts and why that's a challenge for us, especially on new roadways. So one of the things I want to talk about was our pavement condition index, and so that's essentially a way to measure how healthy a road is between a 0 and 100, and that's based on the physical characteristics and the visual characteristics of the surface of the road. And I kind of wanted to draw attention to this kind of cycle that we have. And so what happens is you have a brand new road and it has a perfect score, right? It's 100. And as it degrades, the cost to rehab that road grows exponentially. And so what happens is when you have a pavement cut in the road, you create imperfections and the PCI score is lowered. Eventually those imperfections grow, you start to have cracks, potholes, pavement raveling, and so the corrective action to fix that is cut out a bigger section and replace that section, but now you're back in the same loop where, okay, we've cut out that section, but now there's still a pavement cut, and now you've just pushed it down the road. And so it kind of is a negative feedback loop that happens, and so we really want to prevent and avoid cuts on our new roads as much as possible, because that extends the life cycle as well as the maintenance costs to keep that road up and running and at a high PCI. So the proposed ordinance right now adopts a couple different pavement cut fees. And so this is where RLB and Nino and Moore come into this presentation. We worked with them to develop these fees, and I just want to draw your attention to the 7 categories that we decided to contribute to those fees. So one of those is our typical asphalt pavement maintenance. So what's the cost to maintain that road over the life cycle? As the road gets older and older, there's different costs associated with those, and there's different costs that need to occur at certain time frames of the road life. So maybe from 3 to 5 years, we need to do a slurry seal to cover that road to continue to have a long life cycle. It also the fees contributing were some traffic control plan reviews, third-party quality assurance, so all of those repairs and things that are done need to be tested and verified that they're being performed correctly. These fees also include city field engineering and inspections. They include plan review of the work. They also include a probability of rebuilding the trench, and so there's a factor built into there of how likely is that trench to fail in the future. Even if everything's done correctly, a certain percentage of those trenches are still going to fail. And so I think they used about a 2% probability, and that was just based on their engineering recommendation of how many of those trenches will continue to fail even if they're installed. Then it also includes there should be a slash here, landscaping / irrigation repair. So if that cut occurs on a median, for example, you have to restore that median, including the landscaping and all the things that are associated there. Some things that we didn't want to consider, just because you get into some very large variables and they change a lot, is what are the costs to businesses, right? So if you put a cut in a road, on a brand new road, sure, there's the cut cost, but what's the cost now of potentially closing that driveway to the business for a day, or changing how many vehicles can now use that roadway efficiently? It's kind of hard to calculate that. It's a very specific, case scenario, but definitely a cost that should be considered as we kind of look at how we manage things. Another one is costs due to traffic interruptions. So, for example, if you close a road and now you have to do a detour of about a mile, what are the costs to the Casa Grande economy of how many added miles and gas dollars that now have to be included, right? So again, kind of hard to calculate, but something to think about as you manage the right-of-way. What are those other costs that maybe aren't included directly in this pavement cut? And so we grouped our roads into our different standard sections and then built costs based on the age of the road and that classification. And that's what's shown on this table. The other thing that the current ordinance attempts to tackle is right-of-way use fees. And so kind of going back to how do we manage, for example, the impacts to businesses when those kinds of things occur. Optimally, we want people constructing in the right-of-way out of the right-of-way as soon as possible. That reduce risks, that reduce costs to the business, that reduce costs to the city. And so we want to encourage people to get out of the right-of-way as fast as possible. And one of the ways to do that is to essentially charge based on the usage that they're planning to use. The reason we set it up this way is that we feel this is a good way to encourage those right-of-way users to minimize their impact as much as possible. If there's a way that they can leave a lane open, this encourages them to do that versus shutting the entire road down. Or can they just do a shoulder closure instead of shutting a lane down at all? And so this is a fee structure that encourages those types of right-of-way uses and encourages them to get out of the right-of-way as fast as possible to mitigate impacts to the roadway users. The other thing that the ordinance in its draft form considers today is adoption of the Phoenix Barricade Manual or a City of Casa Grande Standard Manual. One of the reasons that this may be beneficial to adopt the current Phoenix manual is it's kind of a standard across the Metro Phoenix area. A lot of other cities have just adopted it as their standard. It makes it very clear what is required when a closure happens, when certain types of work need to occur, for example, potholing or right lane closures, things like that, what needs to be established on the right-of-way to do those kinds of things. Maybe one of the cons that I think of adopting the Phoenix standards is it's built for Phoenix, right? So there may be some specific case issues in Casa Grande that just doesn't make sense to use those for. And so it's something that I think we need to still kind of look at and explore and see if it makes sense to just adopt it and make exceptions in certain cases, or if we need to, as a staff, come up with our own plan on how to address those concerns in a similar way. This kind of goes over the benefits of just adopting a barricade manual in general. So public safety is a big one. It provides clear rules for those lane closures, pedestrian access, and ADA compliance. So make sure that we try to have a balanced right-of-way use mindset, right? So it's one thing to close the road, but how are we addressing the people that may be using the bike lanes? How are we addressing those that may be walking on the sidewalk? Those are things that a manual would help address on work scenarios. It also would help with infrastructure protection. It'll control how damage to new roads occurs. So it should specify what types of closures, what types of work, what types of methodologies need to be used to mitigate and to lessen those impacts. It also would establish fairness, a fairness across the board and cost recovery based on that usage and impact. It also provides that fee structure based on those violations. For example, if it's not in compliance with their original plan and they haven't established a right-of-way use plan that matches what they said they were going to, it helps make sure that that's fair across the board and standards are held to. It also gives the city a tool to point to, right? So if it's adopted as an ordinance, that gives the city the tool to say, look, this is the standard across the board for everybody that's working in the right-of-way on how it needs to occur. The other thing that the city is doing right now as the Public Works Department is updating the engineering standard plan notes. So these plan notes provide a uniform and technically accurate guidance for contractors, inspectors, and engineers as they build plans to work in the right-of-way. It also just makes things clearer so that as those designs are done and as the work is done, what the expectations are from the city in order to make those repairs or new construction items in a way that protects the city as much as possible. It also helps streamline the review process because as those are standardized, as long as you check those boxes, it's good to go and you can go through the review process faster, which is one of our main goals with this ordinance is to get people out the door as fast as possible and working as fast as possible. The other item I wanted to bring up is our updates to our standards that are really a reflection of some of these challenges. Last year we came to you to talk about some of these standards, and at that time we'd really focused on the roadway side of things. We've since made some new additions based on some of the practices that we're seeing in the field. So in our road series, we created a new trench plating detail that is addressing the trench plate image that you saw earlier. That tends to be a problem that we're running into pretty frequently where trench plates are skipping across the road, and that's it's due to our rural nature of our roads. We don't have curbs on a lot of them, and so they slide open, and so we've dealt with that through the standard, right, of how to make sure that those stay closed. I'm not going to go over all of these. I did want to highlight a couple of the ones made in our street series, particularly an update in our minor arterial section that includes changing the width on our minor arterial streets from 110 feet to 120 feet. And this is to accommodate those right turn lanes and things like that. And so again, as we're thinking about managing the right-of-way, what's the best way to do that to provide those transportation services and those business access and things like that to the public. A lot of these were also just revised to meet current code standards, so that's where you see a lot of these revisions from. These are, I'll touch briefly on these. These are just updates to the engineering standards that are new. So we've also included engineering standards for our water company. As we go to install in other people's right-of-way in the county, this will help that be done correctly. And then some new standards involving sewer and reclaimed water, which again, those will be built typically in City of Casa Grande right-of-way. And this will help make sure that our sewer system and the reclaimed water system as it gets built out protect those needs. So we're at next steps. What we're looking for is probably a timeline for a return to council to go over maybe a more finalized version of the draft of this ordinance. Proposed implementation schedule is something that we need. Does it happen the day of council approval, for example, or is it something that we need to take time to implement into phases to help permit applicants? We also would like some final feedback and questions on what you would like from city staff. And then kind of a timeline as well for council consideration and adoption. And so with that, I leave it open to questions and happy to answer any that you may have.
Thank you. Okay, any questions, comments?
Yeah, I've got
Sure.
a question. We always seem to have a problem with things that are buried that we don't know where they are. So is there existing ordinance or something that requires anybody that buries something in the right of way to provide a surveyed as-built?
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
great point. So today, what we're doing today, and then what this ordinance would really instill by ordinance, historically, we haven't captured an engineering plan set for a lot of those right-of-way uses. Or we capture an engineering plan set, but it misses a lot of those key details, to your point. This ordinance would now adopt essentially engineering plan standards that say this is what have to be on your engineering plans. And then to your point, as those are built, making sure that those as-built are then turned over to the city, and then we're recording those utilities in our GIS system to make sure that
Okay.
that works good for us, but then it's also not just good for the city, that allows us to really collaborate with other utility owners and right-of-way users to make sure that, to your point, things that are hidden aren't hidden anymore, and we're able to identify those before the project ever starts.
Okay, good.
Yep. Great question, thank you.
Any other questions? Matt?
So we're just talking about existing right-of-way right now, not acquiring right-of-way, to be clear. So one thing that you're talking about is like redoing the permitting system. And I don't want to create, especially for the downtown where I see it, like an onerous permitting process, because if that happens, then we're going to get calls about doing that, because a lot of stuff happens, you know, and I'm thinking of like the Main Street Street Fair as well. I mean, they have their system, we've been doing it for years, and any, like the Rotary Oktoberfest, there's an event committee that they go through and you do all this stuff. How is that going to affect that? Is it going to increase the cost of these organizations? You know, I'm thinking like a permit for it's set in there like a newspaper thing. I mean, so we're going to start charging for every newspaper
So I think the fee.
dispenser?
I think the fee schedule part of it is still undecided, and so for something like that, I think you could do what the right-of-way management side of it. We just need to know where those things are and where they're occurring, right? And so to know that what's the risk to the city. I don't think, you know, that's ultimately up to council to adopt a change in the fee schedule, and
So when the fee schedule comes, just
Think about that.
Highlight that.
And to your point, I think this is a good opportunity. So today, the challenge is we have one right-of-way permit, right? And so that requires them to do all these different steps that the mindset is focused towards people working in the right-of-way. So it's very confusing right now for an
Yeah.
applicant because they get told, well, you're gonna be performing work in the right-of-way, but they're not performing a utility construction work, right?
Right.
And so they have this permit that's designed for that aspect of it that doesn't meet 90% of what they're trying to do. And so, to your point, I think this makes it more clear for those type of permit holders on what needs to occur. And then the goal wouldn't be to make it onerous, the goal would be to make that permit easier and more applicable to the type of work that they're doing.
that makes sense. And then, and I like the part about cutting our roads, because I remember when we put Cottonwood Lane in, we were very proud of it, it's a great road, and then a utility who shall remain nameless came not much after we did it. And we do invite all the utilities when we do roads to say, hey, if you want to redo your infrastructure, now's the time to do it. And they did not, and they cut our brand new road, I think like a year. It was like a year old, right, Larry, was it? I mean, more or less. And I mean, and that kills the road. It just really drastically reduces the life. So I'm glad to see that. And also the thing about timing, because I know a section of road that I used a lot was closed. It seemed 3 months, I don't know, it was months that it was closed. And making these developers, it's not the cities, the developers that should need to be held accountable for closing these roads so people can use them, you know, that they can't use. I mean, that'll speed up their process, obviously, so.
Yeah, I think one of the key aspects with the pavement cut fee is it also encourages when those have to occur. Because at the end of the day, people need water, people need internet,
Yeah.
and so it's gonna happen, and there's gonna be.
It's gonna happen,
At times,
but-
there's gonna be a fault in planning, right? The benefit of adopting a fee for those pavement cuts is now you're encouraging trenchless technologies, right? You're saying, look, right now in the cost model, they're saying, it costs me an extra this much per linear foot to do that. Well, if the fee's there, it's a wash, and so it encourages that to occur that way, which also reduces the general public that are driving it going, why, we just built this road and now we're doing more construction on the road, right? And so it keeps people out of the road and keeps the road doing what it's supposed to do, which is carry vehicles and carry people that are using the road, right?
And to Councilmember Badillan's point, all of that infrastructure he's talking about isn't the city's infrastructure, that's owned by each individual utility, so
Yeah.
it's up to them to report to us, because it makes us look bad a lot of times because they told us it was in the wrong place, right? Is that what you're referring to?
And it's not just, I mean, yes, there's been incidents with the city itself, but I've seen other situations where it was significant cost because there were so many unknown utilities that we were finding that it's nonstop. So, yeah, it usually goes back to the guy who's doing the work. So if we're doing something, or if we've contracted something out, and they're just finding all these unknown utilities, well, guess who's paying for that? Right. It's us. So,
Typically, don't we have an overseer that sees what's going on and the issues and should be on top of that? And I know you mentioned that at the beginning.
Sure.
But sometimes we do miss some things. I do understand that. But we should have a point person from the city that's overseeing any subcontractor that we have that's working within our city, on our streets, or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah, so to maybe talk to your point a little bit, Councilmember Edwards, I think that's where that staff analysis that's being done of those processes that are occurring would be very valuable that the city management office is doing right now, because I think there's some areas where it would help define what specific roles are and then who needs to perform those roles. Just to be frank with you, we have our 3 construction inspectors that do most of that right now, but we're getting super busy, and so we have to try to manage all of that. And then at the same time, there's a lot of it that's occurring that it's not under permitted work, and so we have to go address that, and that takes a lot of our time, right? Because now we have to go back and figure out why that happened, how to address it, get them to apply for the permit post facto, and get all that information. And so that, yes, to your point, it would be great to have a one point of contact. It would be better even for our projects and coordination from the utility perspective, because if they had that one point of contact, the city can kind of facilitate those meetings and those things that need to happen, so that Arizona Water Company is talking to Southwest Gas, who's talking to Cox Communications, who's talking to everybody, right? That kind of gives.
APS.
Yeah, exactly.
Lines underground.
Yep.
We're figuring out later we can't complete a road because of the fact there's some lines there.
Yep.
And so.
Yep.
Any other questions? Well, I just had a question on, you talk about the process. Is there, and I don't remember you covering that in here, as far as communicating those projects with the community. And an example is I had something in my neighborhood where they just had kind of barricades and just said, road closed from 9 a.m. to 5. Didn't say who it was, who was doing anything. And it was, the time period was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
And no notice.
So, and no notice. So is that included in your process?
Yeah.
Okay.
So part of this ordinance is going to help us restructure those permits to say, look, these are the requirements,
Okay.
and standardize those, right? So that it's not an unfair basis on who's working there. It's just, this is what you need to do. And so in a similar fashion, when the planning director presented some of the changes about how we're going to notify people about
Right.
building permits, we kind of want to incorporate some of those similar standards, right? If you're doing work within a certain radius, you need to make sure that those residents are notified. And then again, what does that mean? What does notification mean, right? Does that mean, I left a door hanger on their door, or does it mean that all I did was post a social media post? I mean, those are the things that I think we need to address with this ordinance, to say, here's the clear standards that need to happen every single time.
Okay, and we're facing that now with a fiber company that's in town, some of those issues. Were you gonna make a comment? Okay.
No, Madam Mayor, I was just going to ask Mr. Harmon to go back to the slide prior, and maybe we can go through some of the questions. There you go, Mac. But it looks like Councilmember Huddleston may have a question in advance of that.
Yeah, I'm just curious, back on the topic of unknowns in the ground, is the city expected to be the sole source of in a GIS format of what's in there? And a couple directions on my question. Will this include an ordinance that requires that? And is Blue Stake still a thing?
Yeah. Yeah, so to answer your question, at the end of the day, the utility owner is the responsible party for knowing where their utility is. I think the advantage that the city has is that if we collect some of that information up front, we're able to kind of be a middleman, right? We're able to say, we already know, for example, if somebody submits a plan set that they make an assumption that a line is located somewhere based on old as-built plans, the city knows, actually, that line's right here, so we're not going to approve that permit with this with your current alignment, because we know that there's a line there that needs to be moved or mitigated, right? So it allows us to catch that before shovels are ever in the ground and kind of be that middleman. To your point about 811, yes, all of those are standards across the state. So yes, before everybody digs, they have to locate things, they have to do all that. But sometimes those locations are wrong, and so that's where this process, hopefully, collecting those as-built, so that when something is built, an engineer has to certify this is where this is and where it's located, should help with some of those challenges. And right now, we don't collect those as part of our right-of-way management, and so we'd like to change that and make sure that somebody's saying, yes, this is exactly where the line's gonna be for all future right-of-way
Yeah.
users.
All right, thank you.
And Mac, you talk about, at the very beginning, about collaboration with the consultants and utility companies, and I think there was a construction company in there. So you've been working with them, getting feedback on this process, and they even thought looking at those guidelines from the city of Phoenix was a good way to go? I mean, did you feel we're gonna get pushback from people that were too strict? Or, you know, are these reasonable changes?
Sure. I think there's definitely gonna be, putting the pavement cut fee in place is going to cost utility users when they have to use that pavement cut fee, right? So I think there's definitely gonna be a challenge with that. It's going to add cost to their projects, just plain and simple. The other side to that, though, is that I think the city can play a role where we're informing them about that and trying to give them our CIP plan in advance and try to work with them to make it to where we don't want to charge the fees, we just don't want them to cut the road, right? And so I think that can occur. As far as like the comments, yes, we've worked we sent it out to almost all the major utility parties here in Casa Grande. We only got back responses from Southwest Gas and Arizona Water Company, but we're gonna continue to try to get comments from the other utility owners before we adopt. I think there's a lot of valuable comments, and probably when we come back again to go over that, I don't know if it'll be another study session or just go to ordinance. We'd like to present the council with all those comments, or at least a summary of those comments,
Okay.
because I think obviously there's gonna be some things that those utility companies would prefer not that we adopt, but I think again, that goes back to that scale, right? Of trying to balance the people that use the road for transportation and the residents versus the people that use the road for housing their utilities.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, Larry, did you have anything?
Yes,
Okay.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, if I can, just very quickly, it strikes me, and I thought I would have Mac perhaps put on his future goggles in regards to timing of this, because what I wanted to mention to in response to your question specifically, Mayor, we are just at the front end. We have a lot of ideas. This is a 30,000 elevation foot. I know that Mac and his team and Kevin and Dwayne have been working diligently on this, but until we really begin to craft the language and put it into ordinance and whatnot and talk about process, I don't know that we're going to get a lot of comments by the utilities and or the contractors. So I think that once we do that, we'll begin to vet that a little bit more with that group and certainly share that information with the council. I think tonight's presentation was to describe where we're at today and what we're proposing as a staff, and to ultimately get your direction as to whether or not we ought to move forward. It sounds like we should be moving forward with this, but I do think that there will likely be some what I would consider to be some discussions and perhaps even some amendments as we bring forward. So Mac, just thinking on a timeline, let's just say today we're starting. What would you think would be a general timeline before we could begin to bring some of that information back to the mayor and council in a study session?
I think this is gonna be challenged because I think there's gonna be some things that need to occur with our attorney's office.
Right.
As well as our finance department. For example, we talked about bonding in the ordinance, right? What does that look like? What does that look like from a staff perspective? Who holds those, the proposals with the ordinance on changes to code? Optimally, just from a goal perspective, we'd like to have something before the end of the year, because as those open occupancy permits start, it would be great to have those on a calendar cycle at the beginning of the year, right? I think a new year, new system would just be a great way to do it, but I'm not sure if that's a realistic timeline. I think we need to kind of visit with all of our departments with this ordinance and
Yeah.
see what it looks like from their perspective, but that would be an optimal timeline.
from a new year perspective, are you talking January or July? January?
January, yeah.
So ultimately, Mayor and Council, we will begin to work through this process and have the discussions internally to bring more detail, which will include a communication plan on how we look to achieve that within the community. And at that point, we'll get your final feedback, but ultimately, you'll be asked to consider an ordinance after we've developed an ordinance that we feel is going to work best for Casa Grande.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. We'll go ahead and close this study session and start the regular meeting at 7 o'clock. I have to hammer it to do this to close the meeting. I don't do it.
Why not? Use as much as you got.
Okay, closed.
Probably the only one
We
that
adjourn.
understood
Adjourn
all
that
of
meeting.
this.
I know, I can't
looking
remember if I
at it
use it
thinking,
Good evening, everyone. We're going to call this meeting to order. Thank you for being here. Wow, this is a full chambers here, so we're happy you're here to see all of us. So thank you. So we'll go ahead and start. If you can please accept for the record that all of the council is here.
So noted.
Okay. Oh, I guess the roll call is after. Sorry about that. Okay, so invocation, we have Sean Rutledge from St. Peter's Episcopal Church. So if you can stand if you're willing and able for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, in your word you have given us a vision of that holy city to which the nations of the world bring their glory. Behold and visit, we pray, this city of Casa Grande. Renew the ties of mutual regard which form our civic life. Send us honest and able leaders. Enable us to eliminate poverty, prejudice, and oppression, that peace may prevail with righteousness and justice with order, and that men and women from different cultures and with different talents may find one another a fulfillment of their humanity. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Matt. So Adriana, do I need to do the roll call again since you got it? Okay, good. So next on the agenda are the minutes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move approval of the minutes of the City Council regular meeting of July 21st, 2025, and accept for the record the minutes for the Community Services Advisory Board of May 22nd, 2025, and the minutes for the Historic Preservation Commission meeting of April 28th, 2025, as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. The claims.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I move that we approve the list of claims for July 16th through the 29th of 2025.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Meeting agenda approval. Are there any changes to the agenda? I think we're going to move the reports up.
Yes, Mayor Fitzgibbons, staff is asking the council to remove item K2, which is a contract for trail construction. There are some items that we need to address, and we will bring that back, this item before council at a future date. And to your point, Madam Mayor, we do have an executive session, so you may want to have the reports prior to the adjourning into executive session.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, if we can get a motion to approve as amended.
So move.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, special presentation, F1. Let's see, that's you, right, Adriana? So it's a swearing in of Police Officer Calvina Singleton. Calvino, we really are honored and privileged to have you join us here in the city of Casa Grande. And I'll tell you, in my 14 years, I don't think I've ever seen this many people come for one office. Seriously, yeah. So please, thank you all for all of your support.
Eloy.
Wow. I guess they weren't here to see us. Yeah. You can stay. It's very exciting.
Micah.
We'll just pause for a minute, you guys.
That is true.
That, right? You guys buy something? I think I've ever seen that. I know. Go to dinner, yeah. Oh. We'll wait a couple more minutes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Big group.
It's a big group.
It's big.
Looks like when Lisa got sworn in, huh?
The whole family. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Well, we have something equally as important next on the agenda. So, but no, and everyone will see that we have a special presentation. And, I know I wanted to take this opportunity to recognize and acknowledge one of our fellow Casa Grande students here from the city of Casa Grande. This young lady, actually, I know Matt remembers out of the council members and probably many of the city staff when Merlin D'Souza used to come to our council meetings with the Casa Grande Union High School, and she was with the robotics club and Mr. Norris's math club, and would always come and present the amazing things that she was doing. And so as we are into this time where we're getting a lot of kids going back to college and doing so many exciting things, it was perfect. She's visiting, she's a graduate of Harvard University. She graduated this spring and graduated from Casa Grande Union High School in 2021. And here's a picture of her at Harvard, her graduation. And she graduated with a departmental honors in human development and regenerative biology and global health and health policy. And she's going to be going on to Greece with a Fulbright fellowship this year. So I just, we're just so happy. Go ahead, and Merlin, if you want to come up. So Merlin, if you want to say a few words, it's okay. Right. Okay. If you want to say a few words and just tell everyone, we're just so happy to have you. And and before you go on, I do want to acknowledge your parents, Mr. and Mrs. D'Souza here, that are here, that have been here in the city. So, thank you.
You stole the words right out of my mouth. I was just about to say that myself. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for those kind words. I really appreciate it. And of course, it's great to see some familiar faces. As Mayor Fitzgibbons mentioned, I've been born and raised here in Casa Grande. I was actually born at the Casa Grande Regional Medical Center before it became Banner, so I've been here for a while. And of course, the winter weather really got me when I first moved. It was one of the first, highlights of the experience. But I just wanted to share a little bit about my experience at Harvard. Coming here from Casa Grande, it's very different. The culture is very different, but the academics and the experiences I had were really amazing. And of course, it's surreal to be standing here on this podium because the last time I stood here, I was a young high schooler, so it's very different now. So at Harvard, I was able to try a few different experiences. Every week I volunteered with St. Paul's Parish and at the Boston Children's Hospital and the Harvard Square Homeless Shelter. I got to travel and teach in Taiwan and India, so that was really exciting for me. And I worked with the Advising Programs Office at Harvard to welcome first years and develop materials for their peer mentors. I gave tours and I talked to students about the resources that were available for low-income students with the Harvard Admissions and Financial Aid Office. And I was a course assistant for biology and math classes there, which I really loved doing. I wrote my thesis on Siberian hamsters, so fun fact about me. And as Mayor Fitzgibbons mentioned, I graduated from Harvard this past May with departmental honors in human developmental and regenerative biology with a secondary in global health and health policy, and a certificate in civic engagement for my work in the community, as well as taking courses that supported that work. I wanted to take this moment while I had the podium to thank the people of Casa Grande, especially Mayor Fitzgibbons, and the people for their support, and the church community for their prayers and support, specifically Father Ariel, and local scholarships, which I really think are vital for the support of students who go, to a different college in a different state, specifically the Rotary, Kiwanis, Elks, Future Voices, and Cesar Chavez Foundation. And of course, my parents, I have to highlight them again, Moses and Theodolina D'Souza, and my brother Matthew's not here right now, who were my constant source of encouragement and support, and who I would not be who I am today without their support and encouragement, and for believing in me. And as Mayor Fitzgibbons mentioned, I'll be going to Greece to teach for a full year with the Fulbright Fellowship, which is through the U.S. State Department. And I'm going to China in a few weeks, so I'll do that, and then I'll go right back to Greece. So. Exciting times. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you. And Merlin, before you go, we want to give you a certificate of recognition from the City of Casa Grande in recognition of your excellence as an exemplary Casa Grande resident and a role model to the youth of our community. So we'll give you that, and also a Casa Grande pin you have to wear everywhere you go. Okay, everyone. So next on the agenda, thank you again. Safe travels as you travel the world. Next item on the agenda are, public comments. If there's anyone. Oh, gee, I'm sorry, guys. I got a little behind here. I'm confused here. Consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion and one roll call vote of the council. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. Is there anything that needs to be removed from the agenda? From the council? Anything from the staff or the public? Okay.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I would move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If we can get a roll call vote, please, Adriana.
Councilmember Romo?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember B. Dillon?
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards?
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now public comments. If there's anyone that would like to address the council, I do have a few speaker cards, but sure, you can come up first. And if you can please give us your name and address, please.
My name is Smell. Do you remember me? I'm the voice of the unheard. I was here 2 months ago. I asked you for an extension, which you did for 4 months. I appreciate that. Today I'm here to talk.
Can you give us your name again?
Pardon me?
Your name again?
Okay, my name is Charles Ellis.
Okay.
What I'm here today to discuss is a parcel number 504-22-0020, part of the Martin subdivision, lots 3 and 4. You all know it. I'm sure you've all been out there. You've heard from Lily about it. And things I know about it is that it's well overgrown. It's about 200 by 375, which gives you about 7,500 square feet. It also, that can be split up into 20 by 20 lots, and an emergency access road all the way around it. I also know that it's asphalt, most of it is. It's all water and sewer and gas are going to it. I also know that the state owns it. I'm pretty sure that IDOT owns that division of it, or that division is theirs. The only person who can lease it is you, Madam Mayor. You and I should talk. At this, I'm not, last time I was up here, I think I misunderstood, or didn't quite get my point across. I don't want Casa Grande to run it. I would like to open an encampment for the homeless, but I don't want Casa Grande to run it. I'm going to organize a non-for-profit organization to run it, oversee it, and take care of it, and the inmates will rule the jail, basically. It'll be a progressive unit. I'll have a resource center on there. Yes, Seeds of Hope has a resource center, but to get them from point A to point B, there's too many squirrels in between. Have a resource center right there by the gate as they walk out. The thing's already gated. Your system sucks right now, I'm sorry to say, but the system that they got going, 3 months and shoveling into a little hotel, no friends, no nothing, no bright lights. I've been in contact with everybody I can possibly think of. 2 senators, representative, the Capitol building, don't call there unless you're going to book a tour. I finally got down to the governor's office, and that's where I got most of my information. So I've also been in contact with the manufacturers of tents, canopies, structures, generators, security systems, so I can either get them at a discount or give them to me. IBM, Intel as well for the computers. My whole journey on this last 3 months or last 2 months, I've put my life on stop. I've had 3 voices in my head. One was a what if voice. What if this or what if that? The second one was, you know this, and this you have to do it this way. Those are my 2 brothers. The what if is my oldest brother, Phil, and the other one is my brother, Jim. The third voice I had in my head, sorry, I apologize, I'm just about done here.
Okay.
Third voice I had in my head was my mom, pushing me the entire time. Every time I wanted to quit, she kept saying go. So, love you guys. Thank you. I do appreciate your time. I'd like to get together, have maybe a sit down with you guys where we can talk. Everything's on paper. I can bring you a stack of paper and give it to you, show you that I put in the time, and I'm just not a fly-by-night guy. So I can show you and prove to you that I want to do it. I do have certain other people that I got to put on my committee, and to name, and I can name them at that time. So, if you have any questions for me?
We can't ask questions since it's not on the agenda, but you can give your information to Stephen, our deputy city manager, and we can connect with you that way. But since it's not on the agenda, we can't comment.
Okay.
But thank you for coming. And if you can give it to your information to our deputy city manager.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I have Nancy Wood. Hi, Nancy, you know to give your
Hi.
address too?
My name is Nancy Wood, and it's 513 East Beckle Road, Casa Grande, Arizona. And thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Councils. I came tonight just to kind of give a heads up about the area around Casa Grande Avenue and Quartzone, because monsoon's coming up. We had one rain that probably had about a half-inch rain or so. And I'm sure you're all aware that Casa Grande Avenue, Cadota, McNeil, Beckle Road, the College Park area, Palm Park area has a lot of drainage that goes from the south to the north to the Santa Cruz branch. And there's the property that's at the corner of Quartzone and Casa Grande Avenue. They have like a ditch that runs kind of through their property and off toward Pinal and Cadota. And they've done a lot of work on it with cutting down a lot of it looks like the trees that are on the property there. And the last rain that we had, I noticed that the drainage from that ditch did not really work very well. And there was a lot of water that backed up Casa Grande Avenue. And the water just didn't drain. So I know it's a problem. It's like it goes from the city to private land to ADOT and down to the Santa Cruz kind of. So it's kind of an awkward drainage setup. But I just want to bring to the attention that is not draining right, and so property flooding is going to be possibly an issue with the monsoon coming up, which I'm concerned about because my property could be impacted by it. And even though I have a truck, that was not fun even getting through it when it backed up like that. It stayed pretty high. So I don't know if there's some things that can be addressed with the drainage, because it goes down Katota, it goes down O'Neill, Veckel, all the way down Casa Grande Avenue, and then it all gets stopped up at that property. So I know that's private property, but I don't know who has been maintaining the ditch, but it's, all that area there is just not draining well. So I don't know who can address to help, because monsoon's coming up. If we got a ½ inch of rain and that backed up, if we had what I've seen, which is sometimes 3 inches of rain in an hour, and everything really gets flooded up, we would really have a problem. So I'm just trying to do a heads up so we're not caught off guard with that possibly. So thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot,
Nancy.
and I appreciate everything.
Our staff member is watching and hearing everything you say, so thank you.
So I'm just looking out for everybody in the area, so thanks a lot.
Thank you for being here. Okay, Kristen Jeffers. If you can give your name and address, Kristen.
I can. Kirsten Jeffers, and my address that I'm going to give you is 422 North Florence Street, Suite 2. That is the address of our business. My husband Alan and I own Feed Right Pet Food, and I'm here tonight because I am a citizen business owner, and I have created a network of downtown neighbors, all of our business owners downtown, in conjunction with the police department and the Chamber of Commerce, because they are also a downtown business, out of concern for the safety of our neighborhood. In the last month and a half, we have had a break-in at least once a week, if not more often. And it's become a problem. I know that on October 1st, there is an ordinance that's going to be enacted with regard to urban camping, but I am here to issue a challenge, I suppose, to all of you to please come down and frequent your downtown area. It is our entire community's downtown area, and we are seeing a whole lot of disruption, whether it's businesses or it is person to person. So many of our small businesses are run by one person at a time, and we are being challenged on a daily basis by the homeless in our community. They come into our businesses, they scream at us, they sleep on our doorsteps, and on July 3rd, they broke our door open and stole our cash register. I don't have to tell you that it's been a problem, because I'm quite certain that you all know about it. I want to thank Sergeant Egan, Wendy Edwards, and Thomas Anderson from the police department, because they came to a happy hour that we informally put together at the spot this last week. It was an invitation situation to all of our downtown and downtown adjacent businesses, strictly as a social opportunity for us to get to know one another, because so many of us work all day and go home and we don't know each other. So I am asking you to please come down, frequent the businesses or check it out, not just have breakfast on a rare occasion, but walk the streets and speak with the business owners, and understand that we've put together a network, and we are hoping that although it can't be on the agenda tonight, that we understand it's going to be on the agenda in the next couple of weeks with regard to cameras and that sort of help for us, and we're grateful for that. But I'd like to continue this conversation, and hopefully we will see you at our business and our neighbor businesses downtown, because this is our community and we love it a lot. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Okay, Jackie Folgerberg. If you can give your address, please, Jackie. If you can want to pull that down, there you go.
How's that? Better? Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm Jackie Fogelberg. My address is 1208 East Avenida Kino, Casa Grande, 85122. Madam Mayor, I have a question. It's not complicated, but it is direct. I'm wondering, is there a policy between the Casa Grande Police Department collaborating with ICE?
We can't answer the question, unfortunately, Jackie, but you can talk to someone after. Our Deputy Chief Leos is here. He would be happy to answer that for you, but
Fine.
unfortunately, we as a council can't.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very
But
much.
yeah, please get with Deputy Chief Leos. Okay, Barbara Sundust.
I'm Barbara Sundust from 1270, my address is 1273 East Cordova Avenue, Casa Grande, 85122. I just want to say a little thing about the bridge, about the, what Nancy said, because every time I go past Treckle, I go from Rodeo on Treckle, and I go past that little bridge, and I see all the piles of dirt and all the plants, and I'm thinking, if we get a monsoon, that's going to flood like crazy because there's no place for it to go. It's all full of dirt. So I just want to back up on what she said. But obviously the reason I'm here is to talk about the homeless situation. And I want to say I'm really grateful for the Unsheltered Persons Action Committee that, I mean, understand we are really trying to do something, especially for the at this point, for the homeless and the kind of tent people. And so I just think, I mean, a couple months and it's October 1st, and if they just need a place to be. I understand they can't be in the city, and they can't be in the parks by then. But first of all, nobody wants to be in those parks now anyway, except homeless people, because it's way too hot. But anyway, that being said, I'm grateful that there is a movement for them to be someplace. And then I think it would take away some of the other problems that we're seeing, because they would have a place to be, and eventually structures so they can have showers and bathrooms and those kind of amenities. And I'm also grateful to Councilman Dugan for coming to Laundry Love. I appreciate your being there last Wednesday, and I hope you got to talk to some of the people that were there. And so we did 560 loads of wash. We served 91 patrons, and we spent $1,600, over $1,600. And these are people who definitely need the service. Most of them, some of them are regulars, but also St. Vincent de Paul and the Seeds of Hope hand out vouchers. So these are people who are going to get help from them. And so they're not, they're not taking advantage. They really need the help. And again, my last thing is for, I know several women who are living in their cars in this heat, and just if there could be some place in the future anyway for them to be. And one of the gentlemen that we do laundry for, he came 2 weeks ago, I think, and he said he has a place. He's Veterans Association in Arizona City gave him, I'll say it real fast, gave him a place. And he honestly, for 15 minutes, his face lit up and he was talking. He does have to pay a rent, he has to pay utilities, but he has a place. And I mean, I see these women who come with their laundry and live in cars. If they had a place, I'm just begging for there to be some place. So thank you very much for listening again.
Thank you, Barbara, for coming. Is there anyone else? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comments. And next item on the agenda is K1. So is that you, Scott? Here he is. Here you go, Scott.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, members of the council, we're asking this evening for your approval on a small set of personnel policy amendments. Obviously, the personnel policy is the document that frames our relationship with our employees, and we need to amend that from time to time for a variety of reasons. I've provided you an attachment that's an explanation of each of the suggested or proposed amendments, but I'd like to focus on the two major ones. The first one involves individuals or employees who might promote. Our current system basically says that if an employee promotes, they serve a promotional probationary period, and during that time they revert to what's called unclassified or at-will status. And then they're evaluated, and confirmation of regular status then moves them back into a regular employee. So that's our current policy. But in this last legislative session, our legislators again decided that they know best for how you all should manage your employees. And they stepped in and basically said that if a police officer is promoted, but not successful in the new role, that police officer may not be terminated. So there's no such thing as an at-will status in that. Now, we have severability provisions in our personnel policy, which basically says that if state or federal law, we simply say state or federal law preempts our local personnel policy, but we want to make sure that we take the opportunity to come into compliance. And as we've done at least one other time in the past, rather than singling out a particular group of employees, we're going to make the policies apply to all of our employees. That seems to be the most equitable and fair thing. We did that with our residency policy several years ago when the legislature said you may not impose residency rules on public safety employees. And we said that's not right to do. So we removed our residency policy on all of our employees. So that's the first one. We're going to take our personnel policy into compliance with that. So the employee who promotes will not be reverting to exempt or unclassified or at-will status. The second involves an addition of a holiday. Over the last couple of years, there have been a number of discussions about holidays that are observed by other entities, and we don't. And I can speak to 40 years of experience, at least 40 years. We've observed Veterans Day as the day after Thanksgiving. But the conversation began to focus, especially in our employee engagement group, on adding Veterans Day back in. And so this package proposes to add one additional holiday. That ours would total 11 holidays, and that would be Veterans Day. It would actually eliminate a small conflict we have since the city court is under jurisdiction of the court system. They follow the state holidays, and so it creates a little conflict every year with our city judge and how to make that happen. So those are the two major proposals for you this evening. The rest of them are a bit of housekeeping and some clarity as we've applied our policies along the way as situations and circumstances come up. So with that explanation, and hopefully with the information provided to you in writing that answered any questions you might have, I'll be glad to answer that you have tonight.
Okay, any questions? Sure, Bob.
This is probably for Larry. I agree with both of these. I think they're good changes. But if a person is promoted and they do not succeed, will the department have the task of reserving a opening for them? I know in the past sometimes those have been filled, and then when you realize this person is not succeeding, their position has already been filled.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Huddleston, it's a very good question, and one that I would answer by saying that it really is on a case-by-case basis, depending on the position. And as an example, as Mr. Barber outlined, the issue with the police or the change in statutes for a police officer promoting, many times you're essentially going to have a list created. It's going to be a swapping effect, if you will. I know in other departments it's not quite that clear because most of the time department directors are working diligently to fill the position that was vacated just simply to keep up with the day-to-day operations. And so in many cases, we are evaluating that individual who is promoted early on. We're looking for alternatives, perhaps in similar jobs or other jobs. The last thing that we really want to do is lose an employee that might be valuable, even though they may not be able to make it in a promoted status. And so, but to answer your question, I think it really is going to vary on a case-by-case basis.
Well, and I think, I believe you have the authority to overstaff if
Correct.
that's the end result, so.
Yeah, and we have done that as well in cases. We've looked to see if we've got other people that may be leaving the organization. We find that in today's world, people have a tendency to leave sooner than later under the new beliefs and whatnot. And so typically we're going to be working very diligently unless there are major issues that we've recognized with an individual that's promoted. But typically what we have seen, if it's an internal promotion specifically, they were a good employee before, which is one of the reasons they get promoted.
Right.
And the last thing that we're going to want to do is lose somebody with quality.
Right. Well, and I think management has some level of responsibility that maybe we didn't pick the right person.
Right.
You know, maybe we put them in a position where they were in over their head and we didn't properly evaluate that. I also want to hang my head in shame on something because I was one of the employees way back when that promoted that idea of the day after Thanksgiving, trading that for Veterans Day. And I remember swearing, we will never question this, you know, this is what we want. But it added a benefit to the employees, but it also kind of put a shadow on Veterans Day. You know, people would ask us, why don't you celebrate Veterans Day? You know, well, we kind of do, but we moved it. So I'm glad it's going back to that. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? No? Sure, Matt.
So we're still getting the day after Thanksgiving as well, or are we swapping that?
We're adding one, so
So,
day
okay.
after Thanksgiving remains a
just wanted to make
recognized
sure.
holiday.
Right.
'Cause
So
Anthony
we're
has to
actually
take a
adding
day
that.
off.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, you said adding, so I was sure,
Okay.
I'm glad, yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. If there's no other questions. Okay, so let's see, next are reports, since we're going to be going into executive session. So,
We got to vote on the resolution.
oh, I'm sorry, guys. Hello? Okay, here we go. If we could have a resolution number, please.
Resolution
about that.
number 5794, a resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, authorizing the August 2025 policy amendments to the city of Casa Grande personnel policy.
Mayor Fitzgibbons, I would move for approval of resolution number 5795 as presented.
Second.
I know I stepped on somebody, sorry.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Romo?
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan?
Yes.
Councilmember B. Dillon?
Yes.
Councilmember Edwards?
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgibbons?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, now we'll go to reports. So how about if we start over here? Rebecca?
No reports.
Okay, back to school, though?
Yes.
I'm sure everything's going well.
Yes,
huh?
it's going really well.
Okay, good, thank you. Brent?
No reports.
Okay,
No reports, Mayor.
you've been traveling.
Yeah, I'd be
You
gone.
should give us a report on what that. Okay, how about you, Matt?
Yeah, so we had the youth commission retreat last Saturday, Saturday before, week ago Saturday, and it was fantastic. And I want to thank the mayor and Larry for coming and participating, Danny for participating back there, and his staff, Sol and Aidenary especially. They handled a lot of the details, went great. And of course, Adriana and Yvonne came and gave a better presentation about open meeting law than I've ever seen. Just kidding, Brad. But they covered it for you. And they brought swag for the kids and everything, so they were a hit. And it was just a great day to see, you know, the future of Casa Grande, and it's gonna be another exciting year, and they'll be participating in a lot of stuff. And, you know, we couldn't do it without all the staff chipping in, so I appreciate it. And they're gonna be going, some of them are gonna be going to the league conference with us, so.
All right.
Or for the youth program, so it'd be awesome.
Good.
And we got their shirts for the first meeting, thanks to Aiden Airy and Danny's department. Thank you, Danny, for keeping them on task over there. I appreciate it.
Good.
And that's it.
Okay, Anthony?
Yes, let me give a count, first of all, for myself. For the last council meeting, I was actually out of town at the ICPC, which is the International Conference of Police Chaplains. I am certified as a volunteer chaplain for the City of Casa Grande Police Department. I'm so thankful Chief Deputy Leos is actually here, who helped me to get there as well. Appreciate you and all the work you've done behind the scenes. So that's where I was at, is at that conference. And I was just so happy to be there. One of the best seminar trainings that I've ever been in. And I've been in a lot of them. And it was top notch. It's international. And I was so happy. I'm always Casa Grande biased a little bit. But Chaplain Paul Ellis is now the International National Chaplain President. And And at this conference, you had people from Israel, Africa, Uganda, Bolivia, Scotland, the UK. It was just, it's unbelievable. And so our local chaplain is over this now. And Diamond Campa also, who works with our chaplain here at the Casa Grande Police Department, read that registration, and she did a great job. So Casa Grande was in the house, and they represented very well. And I know that Chaplain Ellis will be coming to visit council just to give you information in regards to his new duties and everything. But just so happy that I was able to be a part of that. And I look forward to next year, which is going to be in Washington. I think Spokane is where it's going to be at. And so looking forward to that. And so I wanted to give a count of where I was, and that's what I was doing to take care of. And I did take a peek at the city council meeting at the end. I caught the very end after my meetings up there. So, but it was wonderful in Little Rock, Arkansas, and just really enjoyed the fellowship with the other chaplains throughout the world.
All right, good, thank you. Great. All right, Sean.
No real reports, but just a reminder for next Monday, the 11th. I don't know, Mayor Fitzgibbons, if you're going to cover that, but we've got the bond open house or town hall for the bond issues, and city council will all be present there, and staff to answer any questions that you might have. So
Good,
that's it
thank
for
you.
me.
And thank you for going to Laundry Love too.
Yeah, Laundry of Love.
Yeah.
That was very eye-opening and a very neat experience to go and see. Laundry of Love is really doing a great job. So if anybody out there wants to donate to that, it's money well spent. Those people are definitely utilizing that program, and they need the support. So thank you, Barbara, for.
It's a fine oiled machine over there, Barbara, that's for sure. Okay. Okay, thank you. So as far as events, you guys are probably starting to see on your calendars, it's getting busy. Now that the school year has started, a lot of activity. The first one, yes, next Monday. I hope the community will attend the community open house. We will be presenting, or the staff will be there from all the different departments, and of course the mayor and council, and we will be going over just the facts of the bond election, as well as our CIP projects and any other questions and answers. It's just a way for the community to come and meet the city staff and council members and find out what's going on in their city. So please spread the word to have everyone come. This is a way to have that one-on-one contact and get information directly from those making these decisions. On September 20th, and I know several people are on the Day of Remembrance, the 9/11 Day of Remembrance. That's at 7:30 a.m. at Carr McNabb Park. Hopefully you guys can mark your calendars for that. It's a great event for 9/11 celebration. This past week, we had both Congressman Stanton was in town touring the Lucid facility, and very good, eye-opening. He's not our congressman, but he's on several committees in D.C., and one is transportation. So he was really interested in Lucid and where they're going, and was very just amazed with the facility. I haven't gotten that detailed of a tour in a while, so it's just truly amazing. And so it was good to have him there and speaking to some of the people there at Lucid. And then, of course, Congressman Siscomani was here at the what was he here for, the Pinell Partnership breakfast. So was able to kind of talk to him a little bit about some of the needs here, infrastructure, workforce, education. And so really quick conversation, but try to get as much as I could in those 5 minutes I was talking to him. So, and then I know Larry has planned a virtual town hall for the city employees on August 7th. So if anyone would like, I know that's just for city staff, right? For employees to log on just to go over budget and what the priorities are, and just kind of review all that with the employees. So I was excited to see that, Larry. We, as you all know, we have a community survey that's out now. Today is the deadline. If you would like to fill out this survey, we're trying to get our public information team is getting information on how we communicate with the public and how we can improve, ways that they receive their information. And so today is the deadline at midnight. So if you haven't filled out the survey, please tonight, when you go home, please fill out your survey. It's information that we definitely need. Youth Commission, thank you, Matt, for continuing to do that for 14 years, did you say? something, yeah, for, 16 years, he's been the council liaison, and we just really appreciate it. It was just such a good group of kids. It really was. They're just amazing, some of the questions that they asked. So it was nice that Larry was there to answer them all, but the unsheltered stakeholder meeting, you know, we've been meeting, well, with the last 2 weeks in a row. I wasn't able to go this past meeting, but our deputy manager Weaver, thank you for coordinating that, as well as Deb Bruner. And, you know, we have a group of people that are really trying to come together and trying to find solutions. It's very difficult, but we know the impact it's going to make, you know, when the ordinance comes, and as well as everyday activities with, you know, what we heard here tonight. So, but that activity is going on an ongoing basis. They're meeting, I think, once a month or once every other week, twice a month. Twice a month. The next meeting is next week. Some of you may have attended. It was kind of a sad time for our downtown. St. Anthony's Church was torn down. And so very emotional for a lot of people that grew up here in Casa Grande, even if they didn't go to the parish. These, you know, it was a,
Landmark.
you know, yeah, it was a landmark. You know, people, you know, went to different activities, events, funerals, weddings at this church. So sad times, but, you know, of course, you know, we are trying to be positive and looking forward to what the future brings. So, but definitely sad times there, since I grew up in that church. But the League Conference is coming up, so all of us will be attending the League, which is great. You know, just the sessions, all the trainings and information sessions that we all, you know, get out of this. So I'm looking forward to all of our new members going, because you're going to find it's such a valuable experience, not only to network with other cities, but to really learn a lot about, you know, what other cities are doing. So looking forward to that. And then the League, you know, I'm on the executive committee with the League, and their executive director is going to retire at the end of the year. So some of you as council members might get, or community might get, questions on who his replacement is going to be, and they have a process that they're starting that is on the website. And so if anyone is interested, they can apply, and the city of Chandler is kind of coordinating those recruitment efforts for that position. As far as getting involved with our city, the commission, we have several commission, planning and zoning, or commission openings. Planning and zoning, we have a position that's open. Applications are open till the 22nd. So if anyone knows anyone who would like to apply. We also have the historic commission, the public safety, and airport advisory, and those applications are open until August 8th. So, and a lot going on. Water, Larry, you know, and I mean, we've been in constant meetings with the whole AJAWS process. There's so much going on. I know a lot of people have been updated, but we're excited with, I'm optimistic. He's cautiously optimistic, but I'm optimistic on what's happening and working with Arizona Department of Water Resources and Arizona Water, and you know, working through this whole ADAWS. And so feeling pretty good about where we're going, but definitely a lot of work ahead. So that is it for me. So sorry, I know a lot of information, but okay. So we'll go ahead and adjourn the regular meeting, and we'll make a motion to go into the, oh, sorry. We're not adjourning the meeting. Oh, we're not adjourning. Make a motion. There we go.
So
Go
moved.
executive.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, go into executive session.